Welcome back, Washington, D.C. Metro to Real Estate Radio, and I'm joined today by Louis Cammarosano with HomeGain and Jim McCown with Long & Foster Real Estate. Real Estate Radio is designed to build the Washington, D.C. Metro's market by giving you good, free advice. If you ever have any questions, concerns, or real estate needs, the best number to reach out to us today is 877-245-2030. That's 877-245-2030. So, guys, diving back into the tips for getting your house sold in 2011, we've covered some great things so far. I was just mentioning off air, Jim, that, when we were talking about, the longer that house stays on the market, the price, they start to wonder, well, okay, what's going on with this property? Right. And we brought up a good point where if you price the house, let's say, the seller says, listen, I want you to list my house for $550,000, even though it's only worth $500, or you think that the comparables are $500. Mm-hmm. You take that listing just because 6 months later, they say, oh, he didn't do his job, when really they told you to price the house. Right. Well, in most MLSs, that address is going to be tracked the days on market. So it's going to continue even if a new real estate agent takes that listing and puts it on the next day after they dissolve the relationship with you. Exactly. And and I was saying, I know at one point the property had to be off 180 days for the counter to go back to zero, but now I think it's even down. I'm pretty sure it's, should have known this. I think it's down to 60 days. Yeah. So in order for that days on market to go back to zero, it has to be off the market for 60 days. So that's 2 months you've lost. Right. Plus, if you had a relationship for 6 months with the other realtor, you could essentially lose almost a year there. Yeah. That's wild. Louis, what's another tip that you can give our listeners?
Well, we've got a number of them. As you know, HomeGain does a biannual survey of the top home improvement recommendations by real estate professionals, and they're designed to elicit what real estate agents believe works, not what homeowners may have heard works. So if you go to blog.homegain.com and you click on the home improvement tab to the right, you can see the entire list. The top HomeGain member improvements are cleaning and decluttering. Oh, yeah. You do that. It's basically dressing for success. Your house is not special generally. It's just like the one down the road for sale. If your house has been cleaned up, it's going to look better. Lightening and brightening, same thing. It may mean removing old drapes. It may mean changing the light bulbs. Again, you're looking for curb appeal. You're looking for initial, if not wow, effect, but at least this place looks okay. Right. Home staging, I'm talking about do-it-yourself home staging. You can do it for a small amount. Rearranging the furniture, purchasing pieces, flowers, playing music, and so on, or you can have a professional home stager at a higher price. Landscaping, light landscaping, mowing the lawns, things like that, also add to the appeal of the home. And then repairing electrical and plumbing. You go into the bathroom and there's a rusty toilet valve, or the light switches don't work. It kind of just turns the home buyer off. Red flag. All of these improvements are in the few $100 range, the cleaning, decluttering, lighting, and brightening, the electrical fixes, and so on. Home staging can be done by yourself under $1,000. Landscaping, same thing. If you do those, real estate professionals recommend those over 90% of the time, those top five. You're going to get a 100, 200, up to 600% return on that small investment in being able to get a higher price. As I mentioned, you can see the top 10 at the HomeGain blog at blog.homegain.com under Home Improvement. And as I mentioned, that's a survey we do every 2 years. We ask our HomeGain members what works for them. And just rounding out the list, it's replace or shampoo carpets, repair the floors, paint the interior, and paint the exterior. What's not big is adding an addition, putting a wet bar in, things that people think, they spend a lot of money. They may not get it back. Right. Maybe the buyer doesn't want those things. Yeah, everybody wants a clean and attractive home. Exactly. That is so. I cannot tell you how many times I've walked in and there's 2 inches of dust and the carpets haven't been vacuumed. I mean, that is an immediate turnoff, because it's just like the items in the bathroom. I mean, if you walk in and a house is dirty, it shows a lack of interest or a lack of care. And I mean, it's like, well, if they're living like this, then what's the rest of the house going to be like, or what can't we see? Right. So, yeah, clean your house. My gosh. The other thing, Jim, that I know myself, I walk into a place, I really can't tell what it might look like if it was clean. My wife is very good at looking at a place and sizing it up and seeing what improvements might be made. I look at the place, and if I see a dump, I don't have the imagination to fix
Right.
it.
Well, and that's so true. That's a good point. I mean, there are buyers out there who can look beyond the plaid sofa and the shag carpet, and then yet there's others who can't see beyond what's in front of them. So, one of your points, was, your style, which you've got grandma's antiques or you've got the Italian palazzo theme going on. That's not going to do it for everybody.
Right.
So you've got to be very careful to be almost, I mean, I hate the word neutral, but, you really have to be kind of middle of the road, and you might have a great collection of Elvis memorabilia, but you know what? Sorry. Take it down.
That would go out under staging. You would
most definitely
rearrange what you have in there, or maybe even buy a tasteful piece. And of course, in the agreement when you sell the house, that those items don't come with the home.
Right.
Yeah. That's great advice. You're listening to Real Estate Radio. I'm your host, Ryan Sloper, joined by Louis Cammarosano with HomeGain and Jim McCown with Long & Foster Real Estate. And, Jim, we were discussing also earlier, you were telling me a story. I want to say a great tip, and this is probably one of mine that I would give just talking to a lot of agents out there, is the accessibility to these listings and giving the buyers the opportunity to get in there when they want to, on their time.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, I can understand if you've got, small children, there's a nap time. That's understandable. But, I had an experience over the weekend trying to get an agent to no lockbox, wanted to get in, gave her the time, and it was too early for her. And I'm like, I'm sorry, we're on a tight schedule. We're looking at 10 houses today. You got to work with me here. And finally she did. But yeah, I mean, most people who are working, the weekends are really the only time they have to look. So, if you've got a tenant in there, they've got to be willing to work with the buyer's agents and the listing agent. I mean, if people can't get into your house, you're not going to get it sold.
Well, then, and you just think on the basic level, like if you're setting up showings for Saturday and you've got a list of 10 of them and you're going through and calling them for instructions on showing,
right.
And one of them says, no, you can't show my property till 5 o'clock. And like you said, that's way out of the way and you can't make it back there.
Right.
So you skip that potential property. You go on to find another one. That could have been their dream house
Sure.
that they just missed out on. But because the seller was kind of stubborn about their show times,
right.
It cost themselves a potential sale.
Yeah, yeah.
Just like getting a job in this market, you've got to distinguish yourself not just in price, in how the home looks, but in flexibility of hours. You have to be the home seller that's the most flexible and willing to go the extra mile.
Exactly.
Yeah, Louis, in that other article in the Wall Street Journal, too, you had also mentioned, consider providing a floor plan with the listing so that, the buyers can get a good idea of the dimensions. And so when
Sure, because you know what happens? We did a survey. We haven't published it yet. We'll publish it next week on the value of floor plans. It's something that our survey shows that home buyers want that home sellers do not provide. Because people get home, and let's say you're the type of person you can visualize. Even having the floor plans wouldn't help me. But if you're that type of person, you can actually see how your furniture might fit in there, how you might be able to rearrange things. So floor plans are in demand by buyers according to our surveys, but they are underutilized. It's almost like, if you remember, no one did virtual tours, and someone did a study, and they said buyers want to see virtual tours, and real estate agents did virtual tours. I would expect that eventually, if our survey gets the same type of widespread currency the other HomeGain surveys get, that real estate agents will start recommending providing floor plans either online or offline and hopefully online where they're interactive, to potential home buyers.
Well, and that's a great point, and it's fairly easy really with condos. Even if you're dealing with a second or third owner in a condominium, a lot of them, they have their own websites, and the floor plans are online where listing agents can print them out and include them in a packet. It might be a little more difficult with a 60-year-old house, but again, I'm sure there are people out there who could make that happen for you.
You know what else, Jim, is important, and HomeGain sells these, are the single property websites, because the listing only puts in standardized data, but if you've got a single property website, you can include hundreds of photos, unlimited numbers of photos, and you can include things like floor plans, other descriptions that don't fit the format of the MLS. So a single property website is also another thing that makes your house stand out, because it's not just an MLS listing that's up against all the other MLS listings. You can get your own URL for the home and so on. They don't cost very much. And
They don't.
HomeGain sells
You're
them
right.
for
And I do that with all of my listings. I have a company. It's $19.95. You give the website address is the property address or whatever else we've come up with. And you're right. It's property specific. You can put it in other advertising, and it's one extra step it's easy to do. Takes a little time, but it's well worth the cost.
Sure. Now, the price you pay, is that over a month, or is that for the life of the?
For the life of the listing.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, it's great.
Some companies charge per month, or some companies charge for a period of time.
Yeah.
Some give you a lifetime price, and there's varying features on all of these.
Sure.
But the concept of having a single property website for any home over $200,000 makes a lot of sense.
Agreed.
Yeah, we're coming up on a break, guys. When we come back, we're going to do a quick little wrap-up of the show. You're listening to Real Estate Radio.